I've been thinking a lot about purpose and mission and big picture things lately. And I want to start by telling a story about a time when I was doing a job that I thought was pointless or didn't really have a big impact, and how it was drilled into me how big of an impact that my job had. So when I was in the military, you think military, and when you think about veterans and people that served, your initial thought is, wow, they sacrificed a lot and they did so much to for my freedoms, and I appreciate them. And that's true. Anytime I see a war vet and they've done so many things, it's you picture that they've done a lot and that they've had a lot of sacrifice. But when it's you and you're the one doing the thing, you're so close to it, you don't really feel like you're doing that much. And so when we would be doing things, and I'll give you an example of something that I might have done or I did do. Uh, so I did security and law enforcement and different other missions like counterinsurgency and detainee operations and things like that. But like, for example, a night I might be in a vehicle on a big pad of concrete where they park airplanes. So it's a parking lot for airplanes. And we didn't call them airplanes, we call them aircraft. But um, a C-130, or like this big cargo plane, would be sitting on the flight line, which is the big concrete parking lot. And it'd be 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just sitting there making sure that nobody messes with the plane. And 365 days out of the year, nothing happens. And it feels like you're just spending a lot of time looking at nothingness, or you don't really have a lot to do and you're not really feeling like you're making a big impact. So what we oftentimes sat around talking about with our leadership was, encouraging us to make us feel like we were having a big impact. And the truth is we were, because without having somebody there, you don't know that the plane is secure, and that aircraft is important. And every asset that the military has is important, and you need somebody to protect the whole thing. Well, over the years, that got me through feeling like I had a purpose, that my small contribution made a big difference, or at least was a part of the cog wheel that made a big difference. And what I didn't notice until after I got out was that it wasn't so much that my part was important, but that the overall mission was important. When I got out and I got into civilian world, the work that I was doing didn't feel as impactful into the world as what it was when I was in the military, even though I felt like I was doing something that was kind of mundane, weird to say, There were other times that different jobs that I did that were a lot more action oriented, and I felt like there's a lot more energy behind what we were doing, or more mission oriented. And that's just different stories. But there are times where you don't really feel like you're doing something that is that impactful until you look back and you can see that even if the thing wasn't impactful, you felt like the big picture, the big mission was important. And I tell you all that so that I can kind of set up the next chapter of my life. So I've been out of the military for, I think it's been 10 years now. And all that time I've kind of been searching, or it's in the back of my mind, just like not quite ever feeling like I did back then, back when I had that big purpose. I mean, nothing's really changed on the personal life side of things. I still have a kid. I still got a wife. I got 2 kids now. And so that part of taking care of my family, like providing for them with like monetarily and relationally and stuff, like that hasn't gone away. So nothing there has changed. So that doesn't, that part never left. So I've always felt that even while I was in the military, the part that left was my personal bigger mission and how I'm giving back to the world. After I left the military, I was kind of in search of that. I didn't even know I had it until I left, and I realized, the big picture of, protecting freedom and protecting people and the world. Because we partnered. I worked with people across different branches, across different countries, and our missions were aligned, and it just kind of felt like way big picture, and we were serving a bigger cause. Anyways, I'm really hammering that in because it's important. So over the past 10 years, I haven't quite felt that. But when I got out, I completely changed careers. I wasn't doing security and law enforcement and stuff like that anymore. Instead, I somehow stumbled into finding that I had a passion of the skill for marketing. Some people might not describe it as marketing. They might say it's more online sales, because I really like things like conversion optimization and funnels and sales. It's a lot of technical stuff when it comes to marketing stuff, but the idea is that I like internet marketing, and that is fun, or digital marketing, and that to me is fun. It's some way that I can challenge my brain and solve problems and technical things, and I like technology, so that's even cooler. So cameras and computers and stuff, it's all involved. So that's cool for my personal desires of interacting with the world, but it's still not the big purpose in life. Like, what is the big mission that I'm serving? So when I first got out, I was working for my family's business, and I thought that maybe that would give me this big sense of purpose, and it didn't really. I mean, I could get into it and be like, yeah, we're building something for the family, it's generations and stuff. It just didn't really scratch the itch, I don't think, as much as I would have liked. And then I ended up trying to start my own business, and it was okay. I got the clients and stuff, and business was going pretty good. There was a period of time where I was going through some personal things, and it just stopped working out. So I went back into the workforce and got a job, and I thought I would get out of that quickly, but I ended up staying there for like 7 years. And then I find myself in this situation we're in right now, where I'm in this new chapter of my life. And in this new chapter, I'm still in this phase of like trying to figure out what the next 40 years is going to be, now that I'm having this 40-year-old midlife crisis kind of thing. And as I'm searching, I mean, I'm looking for job opportunities. I'm looking for maybe some freelance work, and I'm just kind of doing, what I should be doing, trying to look for work. And over the past few months, while I was having a job and doing things, I also was building a website, a blog for my personal, I guess you call it a personal brand, and what this thing is all about. And I felt like I was getting a sense of purpose there, because I was taking my life story when I was a kid and as a child, talking about how that upbringing shaped my life, and how Christianity has impacted me, and how it gave me a new lens to see that stuff, that part of my life. And I was just sharing that, hoping that it would help other people as well. And I think that that is a big mission. That is really probably like one of the first catalysts that helped me get more clear understanding of what I want to do, or what I'm called to do. So that's been something I've been working on over I guess it's been probably close to 6 months now. I've gotten like 100 blog articles published. I drafted up 2 books that can now be ordered. They probably still need some fine tuning, but they're there and published, and probably can help some people in some ways in their life. And, I was kind of chugging along doing that. And then I found myself in this situation, like we already talked about. I know there's something more that I can be doing with my life. So as I was praying about things and trying to understand what God had in store for me, things weren't so clear until a couple weeks ago. So a tragic thing happened. Somebody was assassinated, Charlie Kirk. And, I didn't watch a lot of his content. I had seen some things, and I didn't really disagree with much of anything I saw. But that's not really the part that is important in this context. With the context that was important is that me and my family watched his memorial. And watching the memorial and seeing everybody talk and hearing what everybody was saying about him, it kind of sparked something in me that, this one person had this big, audacious drive that wasn't fueled by just wanting to have a big business or just wanting to make a lot of money or anything. Like, he wanted to make a big difference in the world on the behalf of the belief he has in God and the teachings that he believed from God and his faith. And I got to thinking, why am I just coasting? I mean, I'm doing things. I'm trying to live right. I'm trying to be as good of a Christian as I can be. And when I go out and have the opportunity to talk about God. I'm bold in not shying away from talking about God and the topic and talking about what God's done for me and my insights of who God is and what he's done in my life and what I've seen him do in other people's lives. That part is good. And I think that that's, if that's what a Christian does, I think that that's exactly what we're called to do. But I've always felt this feeling of, well, I mean, at least for the last 10 years, I've had this feeling of like, there's got to be a higher purpose in what I'm doing with my career. The last almost 10 years, I've been building this marketing experience and skill set. And I have to think to myself, was it for something bigger? I mean, I don't know. Was the experience from the military for something bigger? What am I supposed to do with all of this? How do I serve the kingdom? How do I serve God? How do I serve the church with all this experience and skill set? So I got to thinking, one, I think definitely keep sharing my story and talking with people, and who knows who my story might affect, who might come across my story. But there are organizations out there that are doing big things and that could use some help getting their message out and connecting with donors and all, just whatever these nonprofit Christian faith-based organizations that could use help in marketing. And I know there's people out there that can serve them, but I could just be one more. So Coach 333, it is intended to be a pretty much the same thing, marketing agency type thing, where any business or organization that I'm working with would be very front facing with faith and communicating with clients that are also openly faith driven. It doesn't necessarily have to be a nonprofit foundation type of thing. It can be a regular business that sells e-commerce stuff online, because that's kind of where my experience came from, is e-commerce stuff. I can work with any business. I mean, the idea is that they know that I'm very open and passionate about my faith, and ideally they would be too. This puts me in a state that I haven't felt or been able to communicate for like a decade. Ever since I left the military, I've been searching for this feeling that I feel now fairly clear about the direction that I'm going. I got two layers. The one, sharing my personal life story and the interactions that I'm having and my perspective on different things. And then the other aspect of, now we're going to take my professional skill set and apply it to churches and nonprofits and faith-based organizations, and see how we can help drive the kingdom and spread the word of God. So I got to thinking, like, who would be my ideal client? Like, if I could pick like one dream client, and my mind is not aware of all the different Christian organizations out there, but I do know that there's one in my mind that I could immediately just call out and say, I would love to work with them. And the leader of that organization is Tim Tebow, and which kind of gives you the name of the organization, is the Tim Tebow Foundation. And I think it's easy for the Tim Tebow Foundation to get a lot of clout because Tim Tebow is a part of the name. He's got more organizations than just that, but I love what the Tim Tebow Foundation is doing. They're working as a organization to fight against human trafficking and exploitation of children. I mean, with my background story of being abused as a child and poverty and all of that stuff, it's not that I dealt with being trafficked or being exploited, but it hits home. That's a mission that I can get behind and feel passionate about the work that I'm doing on behalf of the Tim Tebow Foundation or something. But I also like the extra cherry on top that I'm aligning with faith, and we're also aligning with a mission of helping kids. So like, something like that would make me feel so much more satisfied with the work that I'm doing. I can still be making, reasonable income, and I could also be making a big difference in the world by helping an organization like that get the funding that they need to be able to make a big impact in their mission and in the world. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff. In addition to every church, like there's so much I've seen in churches that, they could use some help with with spreading their word when it comes to internet marketing and growing their congregation and stuff. So I think, for a little bit, I got to do some exploration and get a better understanding of what their needs are and what kind of terminology they use, because my background in e-commerce and lead generation kind of doesn't, the words, they're different, but they mean similar things. Like we wouldn't call a donor a client or a customer or something like that. So just understanding the lingo and how it correlates a little bit better, but that's it. If you could do anything, if you could have a certain purpose in your life with your skills, what is it that you would be doing? If the pay was enough and you could be doing something that would make you feel like you're making an impact for something you believed in, what would it be? Leave it in the comments, subscribe, check out all the videos. Let's see you in the next one.